All right. Hello again. My name is Dr. K, and I'm with Journey to Becoming. And this is your series on hashtag Becomer Stories. And this is where we celebrate you. We celebrate your stories on your journey to becoming. And we celebrate those who are a part of our platform family and knowing that you are fabulous and you are wonderful and you can do this, right? So we are always about giving you information and giving you encouragement and enlightenment so you can get to your journey to becoming. And part of that is definitely becoming financially literate, financially empowered, financially free, and all those other things, right, that go along with being, empowered financially, because all of it impacts our journey to becoming. So we wanted to go after the experts, right? I'm all about bringing the experts on, staying in my lane and bringing the experts on. So we have none other than Mr. George Nichols III, who is the 10th president and CEO of the American College of Financial Services. So you talk about experts, right? That's what I'm talking about. We bring the best, right? Somebody who's going to really be able to guide us. So we want to welcome you today. He also is so many things I can say about him. I mean, I could go on and on, but I kind of want to save it for our interview because there's some questions I'm going to ask him so that he'll be able to bring that in. But he was also actually the first African-American insurance commissioner in Kentucky. So I do want to put that out there because he has a whole lot of information and expertise that he brings. But I want him to kind of bring that out through the interview, and I don't want to spoil it and have any spoiler alerts here. So welcome, Mr. Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited and looking forward to this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to get into it because he has so much information. When I met with him briefly, even to discuss being on the show, I just was intrigued about what he was doing in all of the new platforms that he's talking about. So first, let me just talk about you. What's your background and how do you think it has impacted where you are today?
So I'm from Kentucky, as you mentioned. I grew up in what I would define as the segregated South.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, like many Blacks that grew up in areas that were segregated, we had different experiences. We were poor. I'm one of 5 kids, 4 sisters, no brothers. I'm the baby of the family, and I tell everyone that I am not Prince George.
Okay.
I feel like I'm the male version of Cinderella because my sisters had me doing all the work and telling me what I was supposed to do.
Oh my goodness.
As I grew up. But
I get it.
But it was interesting when I think about my upbringing and think about financial services and think about where we are. George Floyd murder was on my birthday. Breonna Taylor happened in Louisville, Kentucky, where I lived. And so these national things impacted me when I think about growing up in the South. And I remember watching my mother. I was 6 or 7 years old, and I'm holding on to my mother's skirt while she paid her $2.68 for her to the debit agent for the life insurance policy we had. And then the change of my father and many of the Black men in our community that worked in factories felt good about providing for their families, and then all of a sudden they lose their jobs for a variety of reasons, the things that were going on in that day. And then my mother and all the mothers had to get jobs as domestics, and that changed the family dynamic. And then I remember riding with my father, and this is probably the first time I ever realized that we were poor. I knew there were things we couldn't get, see the other side of it. We never went to the other side.
Exactly.
But you're riding in a car and you see how the houses change, the communities change as we got closer to where my mother worked. And yet we could never go in. We could drop her off, but you couldn't go in. And then you go back, and I'm like, wow, there's these two different worlds out there. And then you fast forward to the opportunities that I've had, and the whether it was being the first Black insurance commissioner in Kentucky, and operating at that level, and I knew how big insurance was in the state. And then being able to go to New York and be a senior executive at a Fortune 100 company, and
Mm-hmm.
named after the greatest city in America, New York.
Mm-hmm. New York.
Uh,
That's it.
yeah. So it's really been an experience, but I still go back to growing up in that family where I had my mother and father, even though we didn't have financial means, we had
Mm-hmm.
love. And I found that's the basis and the strength of everything that I've done up to this point now.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and father both quit school in the eighth grade, but they had the foresight to say to me that if you're ever going to break the cycle of poverty, you got to go
Mm-hmm.
to college and get an education.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
And
loving that.
so now all these things, when you're going through them, you look back and like, I don't really, why am I going through this? Why am I doing that?
Mm-hmm.
But now you get to a point, and am I shocked that I'm president of a college?
Mm-hmm.
There are days I am surprised, but as a man of faith, no. This whole
Mm-hmm.
path was preordained, and my
Mm-hmm.
job was to stay on the path.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. See, I told you guys that a plethora of expertise here. You have no idea. So, what motivated you? You know, we're talking to a lot of women who are here, college students that are here. What motivated you to get to your position now? Because you had so many prestigious positions even before. You know, the first African American, insurance commissioner, and then working for a top 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, company. Even more so you had so many things that you experienced, and then all of a sudden to get this even more exceptional position in being the president, the 10th president of a college that's been in existence since 1927. I
Yes.
mean, that's phenomenal. Like, I don't know whether everybody knows that or not, but this American college has been in existence since 1927. So this wasn't something that just kind of somebody just thought about, recently. So, I mean, this is very historical. So how are you motivated to get to this position?
Well, it's as I said, parents stop quitting school in eighth grade, but saying you have to go on if you're going to break the cycle. So that was the first thing that I understood, that education, lifelong learning
Mm-hmm.
was the only thing that was going to get you through.
Mm-hmm.
But I also thought about other things that sort of came into play around education. When you're growing up in the South, and it's a segregated community, oftentimes the majority wanted you to feel dumb, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how
Mm-hmm.
smart you
That's
were. And
correct.
so I was a good athlete. So they think athletes are dumb. They think
Mm-hmm.
black folk are dumb.
Mm-hmm.
They think people who always like to laugh and joke are dumb. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I got a bunch of X's going against me already.
Right.
And yet, but you're not, and you're trying to prove it. So you're always working harder. And so that was a part of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get good grades in high school because I was supposed to go to this college thing, and I knew I had to. But there was a couple of things that happened along the way that made a difference. One
Mm-hmm.
was I went to a junior college, and I did you had to do the testing to where they were going to place you. And I was a B student in high school. I get to college, I'm a freshman, and they came back and they said, we're going to put you in a remedial reading class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
And they said, you're on a ninth grade high school reading level.
Wow.
And now I only went there to play basketball. But now
Uh-huh.
oh no, wait, hold it just a second. You just,
Right.
you coming back to calling me dumb again, and I'm ready to
Exactly.
deal with that. This ain't about basketball now.
Right.
And but the professor wasn't saying like you're not smart. He
Uh-huh.
started asking me questions. He says, "Did you have difficulty in high
Mm-hmm.
school?" I said, "Well, yeah. Sometimes I would read and I would have difficulty comprehending." He says, "It wasn't that you weren't smart enough." He said, "You never learned how to read."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he said, "You probably did that on your own." He says, "What if we taught you how to read? What if we
Mm-hmm.
taught you the process and the thinking through that?" And he said,
Wow.
"Look, I don't play basketball, so I'll make a deal with you. You come to my house, my wife's gonna fix you dinner 3 nights a week, and I'm gonna teach you how to read, and you're gonna explain the game of basketball to me.
Wow.
And by the time the first semester's over, we're gonna get you where you need to be at. So I said, okay. Well, by the time the first semester was over, I was on a sophomore college reading level
Wow.
because this man
Impressive.
took the time. And he said to me, I remember him saying at the end, he said to me, you're not only going to be able to read your contract, you're going to understand your contract.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Now, that was powerful. So you think
Yes.
about all of those. So now I keep getting these education, these lifelong learning lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fast forward through my professional career, it got to a point where like I had been able to achieve things that I never thought possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question comes, okay, how can I make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
And I know the power of knowledge. I know the power of education. I know the power of learning in my own life. And I know that people will tell you read books because if you ever want to visit any place in the
Mm-hmm.
world, you can read about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, okay, let me do something in education. And then for, again, as I say, a man of faith, for God to orchestrate that, you know, and I actually said this to people. Now, God says, I always thought if I ever went in education, I would go to a small liberal arts college somewhere that
Mm-hmm.
was probably in
Mm-hmm.
financial trouble. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, they only gonna call me because there's a problem.
Exactly.
And so, but that's what I believe. And the guy said, no, no, that's not what I have for you. What
Mm-hmm.
I have for you is I want you to go to this historical place that's been
Mm-hmm.
around for a long time
Mm-hmm.
that educates people to help people manage their finances and live a good life.
Wow.
You started out when you was poor, but you really weren't poor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now
Mm-hmm.
I want you to take all of that and I'm gonna put you as a leader there. And oh, by the way, I got a pandemic down the road. I'm gonna make sure that the place you go to is 100% online. Now,
That's good.
okay.
That's good.
So that's what I'm thinking. So all I wanted to
Wow.
do was to help people and recognize the importance of knowledge. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
really what it is. Even when
Mm-hmm.
you think about education, don't think about it as education, think about it as knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to help people have knowledge because people would help me have knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do that. And I thought you do it at a college and you bring these young people through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what was for me. What was for me
Mm-hmm.
was no, I want you to help them financially because there's the thing about this financial knowledge that we help advisors have that helps individuals and families and businesses. There's another piece of it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually a part of like, so we have all the curriculum around teaching sophisticated financial matters to advisors so they can help families.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have said that we have to think about for the future is understanding behavior, the
Mm-hmm.
individual and the family behavior, and
That's right.
how financial transaction works with that. But if you don't get that behavior addressed with it doesn't really matter. Because what I learned through my knowledge and through my own financial success is it really still comes down to a human being.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
now, if I could teach and be a part of helping advisors help you with the financial transactions, but more importantly, help you with the why of life, how
Mm-hmm.
you want to live,
Mm-hmm.
what you want to experience, what you want to do, the impact you want to live. And then we'll put the financial transactions with that together. Well, now I get to do something pretty special.
Yes, most
An
definitely.
American college. That's
That's
how
that
this
that's
story got
awesome.
played out.
See, that's awesome. So, see, and I hear you mentioning the power of education a lot, right? And so, on our platform, we address college students and women. So, as far as college students, especially first gen college students, right? First generation,
Yes.
how could you explain the power of education to them? What would you say to them as being able to explain, how important the power of education is to them? And because they're first gen, so they really need to get an understanding of how important that was for you. And I'm hearing that But can you explain that even more so? Because if I'm not mistaken from what you're telling us, you were first gen.
Yes, I was first gen.
Okay, so he's the first generation. See what I'm saying? Nuggets, guys, catch him. He's a first generation student. And look where he is. So you can do this.
Yes.
So what would you say to that audience as far as the importance and the power of education?
So I know a lot of people don't like to go back in history, but I want them to, for all of the national unrest that we're dealing with right now, and what we're trying to get our country to move to, all right? And many of us in the Black community are talking about the impact of slavery on where we are today. And I want you to only focus on one thing from slavery. There was something that they never wanted us to do during that moment in time in slavery. They never wanted us to learn how to read.
Correct.
Because the power of knowledge is power. When you know what you should do or not do, that is power. And so think about that. They may wanted to own us as property, but it was more important that they never let us gain knowledge. Because they knew once we gained that,
good point.
Okay, we've evened the playing field. We now have been empowered. So fast forward to, you don't have anybody in your family that has ever gone to college. Okay, but there's a whole bunch of knowledge out there in the world that would allow you to break the cycle.
That's right.
To advance where you're from to something different. And the only way you're going to get that is to get some knowledge. And part of that is experiences. Part of that is in books. And we are getting into a place where, you know what? It used to be if you had a high school diploma, maybe a year of college, you could make it. You know what? I'm actually seeing now that for some college students, for some job, if you ain't got a master's degree,
yes,
we're not even looking at you.
That's true. That's true.
So as we advance and get more sophisticated as a country, as a society, as a people, you got to have that knowledge. So think about that. The master did not want you to get no knowledge because you knew the power of it. And now you have the ability and freedom to get some knowledge. Don't you hold yourself back. Don't be the master of yourself that doesn't allow you to advance. And you don't have to get no Ph.D. You ain't got no good math. You just got to get some knowledge. You got to go and do something. And if you're the first generation, think about the legacy that you create for your family.
That's right.
Being the first and being the example.
Exactly.
So there is so much in there that I think, and I will tell you that my wife and I met at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green,
okay,
which is
yes,
my hometown. And we have always wanted to give back. We just recently have been involved in a program there on campus that is a student intercultural program where we fund a program for first generation students.
Okay.
And what we said is, okay, there are advisors and tutors and all that. So academically, you just got to come in and work. But what we found is, as a first generation, is like there was, okay, I know I'm supposed to study, but I don't know the other stuff. I'm not a frat. Am I going to be in a sorority? Okay, now I got all these people coming in from all over places, and they talk about experiences, and I don't know anything about that. Oh, I miss my mother, I miss my father, I miss my friends. And so there's all these things around you that go beyond just education. So the program we've created is, it just puts our arms around you and gives you the support structure. And yeah, we'll give you tutoring, but more importantly, we want to help you get through when you're missing something. That emotional connection, making you feel a part of a group. It's not a sorority or fraternity, and they serve their purposes, but this is, what do I do on campus? How do I deal with, well, I really don't want to go out Saturday night. Am I missing out on something? Or I realize I'm really tired and I probably ought to stay at home. But somebody ought to talk you through that. And
yeah, somebody does.
and no one in your family went there, they can't tell you
That's
what.
right. That's right.
So
That's
what
right.
we try to do is, if you can recognize the power of you stepping out, gaining the knowledge that they did not want you to have,
Mm-hmm.
you start getting it. We've recognized that there's additional things of support that we want to help put around you in
Mm-hmm.
order for you to succeed. And what we've seen is that the retention
Mm-hmm.
has gone up as a
Mm-hmm.
result of that at
Mm-hmm.
Western, to where now Western actually uses some of the successes
Mm-hmm.
across the college for everybody.
Of course. Of course.
And so that's where we're at. But
That's phenomenal.
I want people, don't underestimate when we talk about all of it. They didn't want you to have some, and the reason they didn't want you to have it is because they knew once you get that knowledge, you become a powerful human being. You got
Exactly.
to get that.
That's it. And you and your wife tapped into something that a lot of universities and colleges, including the Ivy Leagues, like Yale, Georgetown University, Stanford, Harvard, are recognizing this, right? This is something that I'm very familiar with because of what I do in my other job, as I call people call it, because we look at holistic, and that's what you're talking about. We look at holistic type of support. And we found that working with first generation or students that come from marginalized backgrounds, the holistic support is critical.
It
And
is.
so that's what you are talking about. And I love that because it's very important that we are able to understand and know when we need help to ask for that help. But if you have programs like what you and your wife have done at WKU and what we have at different places and the other universities are finding out this holistic support, then they're able to know how to ask and what to ask. And then the other piece of that you're saying that I heard you say in that is that sense of belonging. That's something that we have found in the research. And I do a lot of research with first gen and with marginalized populations and the backgrounds, and that belonging is everything. And so, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is awesome that you have someone of your caliber. Now, I need the platform family to get this. Someone of his caliber reaching back, right? Reaching back to be able to help others who were first generation. And now, not only is that program helping others who are first generation, but that university is taking it to help everyone across the board. That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Because one of the things I noticed is that I wish someone would have told me about the credit card before I got to
Oh,
college.
really?
Okay.
What you
Now
mean?
I'm getting ready to, I'm getting ready to ask you a question on this. I'm kind of leading in, but I just wish somebody would have told me, right? I went to HBCU. I went to Hampton University, and awesome university. Love
Yes.
HBCU. Love Hampton. Our president, he's been president forever. He's awesome, right over there. And it's interesting because this was going on at that time at every university, no matter whether you were HBCU, whether you were a community college, whether you were a four-year college, whether you were Yale, it didn't matter. And they were allowing people, and they talked about predatory lending and all of those type of efforts. And they would come on and just, get us and say, hey, you can have a credit card. And you're thinking that you're just coming out of high school. You're like, I get to spend money.
Yeah.
And you don't think you have to pay it back. I just get to spend money and all I have to do is give this card. Yes. See, that's where the financial literacy would have been helpful, right? So because we serve women and we serve the college students, like I said before, how can they fulfill their becoming with this new platform that you have? You have a new platform, and that's what actually attracted me to be able to learn more about you, for our audience and for our women and for our college students, because of the fact that you not only, I didn't know about all the other pieces that you and your wife were doing that was, helping college students, but I knew you had a new platform that was going to be very effective in helping a lot of our platform family. Can you talk to me about how that will help a lot of our platform family?
Yes. So during, excuse me, when when George Floyd was murdered, everybody wanted to put out a public statement, and we put out a public statement.
Sure.
And my view was like, man, that's not enough. We got to
Mm-hmm.
do something.
Mm-hmm.
So the American College has relationships with financial services companies all over the country, banks, insurance companies, asset managers, broker dealers. We have these relationships. And if you look historically, the financial services industry has helped finance the birthing of America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All along the way, they've been
I agree with
birthing
that.
America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if we could get the financial services industry to take that same skill set, that same financial capital, the same intellectual capital,
Mm-hmm.
and focus it on the Black community so that we could narrow this wealth gap that all of the statistics show exists.
Mm-hmm.
And we say financial and intellectual because it's not just putting money up or doing special initiatives around new products and services.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, go back to that knowledge thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do we share some knowledge with
Okay.
folks to help them manage this wealth? So when we came up with a program called 4 Steps Forward, and we said we were going to do, we said, all right, so the first thing is we want the financial services industry to help, but it has to be focused on the Black community, but where? Because see, we know we can't really help everybody,
Right.
but where could we focus to have the greatest impact?
Mm-hmm.
Black females.
Mm.
We
Okay.
define that Black females, now I'm sure I learned this from my 4 sisters.
I'm sure you did.
we realize that Black females are the gatekeepers to the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have an impact? 89% of single parent households in the Black community are headed by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
63% of all Black households, the primary breadwinner is a woman.
Wow.
58% of all college graduates who are Black are women.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones having the children, raising the Black males.
Mm-hmm.
So if you impact them, you get an impact today and for generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So our view was, let's provide them with financial literacy. Now,
Okay.
here's the thing. There is so much knowledge and content around financial literacy out there today.
It is.
And so I don't think you really got to create new content.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to figure out how to deliver the existing content
Mm-hmm.
at the right time when it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, how could we figure out a way? And that's what we're working on now with other companies. How could we figure out a way to provide the right knowledge and literacy for Black females
Mm-hmm.
where they are in their life cycle? So it might
Mhm.
be, okay, I got credit card debt. How do I deal with that? Or I want to figure out how to do a household budget. Or I'd like to figure out how to do my financials around, I want to go to college so that I can get on a path to make money. I want to start a business. I got a business that's run. I need to run it better. So we're
Mhm.
not saying that it's one group or the other. We're saying, let's figure out where Black women are and how can we help. So that was the first piece of this. The second piece we said is that all these financial services firms are doing all this research on Black folk.
Mhm.
And then they sit up, and it's typically a white group that says, well, that's what the information says on
Mhm.
how we should sell our product. And we're
Mhm.
saying, well, why don't you flip that a little bit? Why don't you do research? And before you go out, why don't you go back and test it against,
Mhm.
ask the Black folk, this is what we think it says, this is what you think it says.
Exactly.
But when you're sitting in the room, the only way you're going to get a really good assessment is you get Black folk in the room.
Mhm.
Well, how many Blacks are you promoting in your company?
Mhm.
They're in middle management because you're never letting them rise. So how do we help them
Mhm.
get promoted and move up in the company so they can sit in the room and help you decipher this research that you say?
Exactly.
The third piece is, we said, if we're successful with Black females and then we're successful promoting Black executives, then they are going to want financial advice from people who look like them.
Mhm.
So how do we help the industry recruit more Blacks in the financial services as advisors?
Mhm.
And then, just like what we were doing, what my wife and I are doing back at Western, how do we retain them?
Mhm.
Let's bring them in. How do we retain them? And then the
Exactly.
last piece of our 4 steps forward is this thing called what we call collective impact. Now, the example that I use is COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody's like waiting for the vaccine to come.
Right.
Pharmaceutical industry is competing, but when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to vaccine, they sharing information
Mm-hmm.
because they
Mm-hmm.
got one singular focus, and that is we
Mm-hmm.
got to get a vaccine. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one of us is going to get there first, but
Right.
all of us are sharing all of our information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if the financial services industry starts saying, okay, we got to serve Black America better?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
let's all talk about what's working and what's not, because there's
Mm-hmm.
enough out there for all of us.
That's right.
Let's talk
That's
about
right.
that. And then let's take the knowledge that we have and the financial capital and see if we can have a greater impact on the
Mm-hmm.
Black community. That is
Mm-hmm.
our initiative.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is awesome. And so you see all the pieces. You can tell that you were very detailed in thinking this out. It was very methodical. You know, you thought about the how, the when, the what, and the where. Everything. You thought about all the pieces from okay, who you need to serve. You know, right now to make the biggest impact, and how that would look, but also being able to understand, like even in education, some of the things that we have seen is that students want to see professors that look like them
Yeah,
to be able to identify so that they
exactly
can
right.
be able to be more successful. Not saying they can't be successful
Right.
without it, because we have been. But with it, we're even more successful, and that you even brought that in with your initiative and your platform about getting more people in. But you were smart enough to know from the beginning that not only do we have to get them in, but we have to retain them. And so that's smart, because a lot of times people will build the structure for gaining more people that of color into industry, but they don't think about the retention until after they find out, oh, this is not working. I wonder why this is not working, and then they have to go back and kind of rebuild it. So this is awesome. So I know we're getting close to the end. So I want to ask you, these are different, your platform, but what are and I can tell that your hashtag become a story, I guess would be to come to this point because I'm listening to all the things that you do. So two parts. What is your hashtag become a story? And then what are ways that this plan can impact the upward mobility and wealth building for Black America? Like, what are the ways that we can do right now? We know what your plan is, but how can this platform family be able to participate in that? Or what would be advice that you would give to the women or college students or in college students to help us to have upward mobility and building wealth?
Well, I guess the first thing is, it really does start with knowledge. And you got to go back to the
It's like going
beginning.
back to knowledge, right?
You can't, it's funny. Like there are so many of the college students that my wife and I interact with, and they're like, I want to start a business. I'm gonna start my own rap group. I mean, and I want you to believe, and I want you to aspire, and I want you to put forth the work and the
Mm-hmm.
energy to go do and be what you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have some knowledge overlaying on that,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you got to educate yourself about what it is you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, I always tell our kids like, I want to be like you and mom and dad. I'm like, well, do you know anything about the 36 years before y'all
Yeah,
got
right.
what we were doing?
Right.
When your mother was, I'm working, your mother's working, and we're trying to figure out how to raise y'all, put diapers on y'all, and all the other stuff.
Exactly.
They don't remember that. They didn't see that. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times people say, oh, well, I heard that Dr. Barber, she just like dropped in and became a star. No, she
Right.
didn't. Uh-uh.
No,
You don't have
exactly.
any idea.
Not
So
at all.
so telling people like, get you some knowledge and understand what it's going to take to get there. It's a lot of work, but,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we work hard, but we don't work smart.
Yes, there it
So
is.
I got to send people back.
Yes.
Start with some knowledge that whatever you aspire to be, try to understand what it takes to be that, and then
Mm-hmm.
put forth the work. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if there is nothing I've ever seen successful that occurred without you sacrificing something.
That's it.
Okay. Now
I'm definitely confirming that.
you got to figure out what that is. I mean, and it's
Yes,
different for everybody,
that's
but
right.
you got to understand, in order to achieve this, what am I sacrificing? And
Mm-hmm.
you must make a conscious decision that I understand what that is and that
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to sacrifice it. Okay.
Exactly.
And, and,
Exactly.
and, and so I'm working hard and I know when I got to give up because you're going to give
Mm-hmm.
up something in order to
Yes.
get there. So
Yes.
the knowledge, understanding the sacrifice. And then the third thing is just, I know this one, sometimes I look at this, I'm like, it's just too simple.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your support network?
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
So I think about college and my daughter was calling me one day. She's in a sorority
Mm-hmm.
that just had one of their members that got some big job starting in January.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
and that way I ain't got to give the name, but y'all know who that
Exactly.
is.
Yeah. Read between the lines. I got
Yeah.
you.
So, but she was like talking to me like, Dad, such and such doesn't like me. And I said, let me ask you a question. Can you see this person in your future?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, Dad, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get through college. Well, then she irrelevant
Exactly. I love it. I love it. That
because
is definitely good.
you should think about the people that are going to benefit you in your future.
Mm-hmm.
Not, there are so many people I know from college and high school that was like popular.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't got nothing now.
That's it. That's it.
And just think if you'd have hung around there,
Mm-hmm.
you ain't got
Mm-hmm.
nothing either.
Exactly.
So you got to put yourself, your support structure, you got to put yourself in a position around like-minded people that are trying to do something. Because see, like-minded people who are trying to do something are
Mm-hmm.
not going to tease you and talk down to
Oh,
you
yes.
about how hard you working to
That's
get
it.
something.
That's
They're
it.
not going to try to block your dreams.
That's
They're going
it.
to tell you work harder. Okay. If
Exactly.
you don't put the right kind of people around you, it ain't going to work. Knowledge, recognize the sacrifices, who's your support structure. And
Mm-hmm.
I say to people all the time, like I get into, I mean, there are so many people that reach out to me, but I'm like, you know what? The people that I'm spending my time on are the ones
Mm-hmm.
that will help me get where I need to be.
That's right. That's right.
And you ain't got to be disrespectful or
Not
anything.
at all.
And I'm
Not at
just
all.
telling you know what? Here's the thing I tell my kids. What is the greatest currency?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
currencies, most of us think currency is money.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna tell you the greatest, most powerful currency in this world, time.
Time. That's right.
You don't get it back.
That's right.
You
That's
just
right.
don't get it back. So where are you spending your currency of time?
Mm, that's good. That's
That's how
good.
I think about
That's good. That's powerful right there. We can drop the mic right there, guys. We just dropped the mic. Nothing else need to be said but that right there. I'm telling you, it has been awesome having you on our platform of hashtag becoming stories. This is amazing. This is one of those that you want to listen to over and over again, guys, because you'll get different nuggets each time. But we want to thank you, Mr. George Nichols III, and taking time to talk to our platform. And as you continue to move forward, let us know how to get in contact with you. So that we can be able to, become a part of your platform.
Just go to www.theamericancollege.edu/president. And
There you
and
go.
there I am. And I tell you,
Okay.
Dr. Barber, I am grateful, one, for the invitation to be here, but very proud of what you're doing.
Thank
Everybody
you.
has to find their voice. I can tell you found your voice, and I'm so glad that you're shouting your voice so that others can hear.
This is awesome. It's all about helping each other. Thank you so much again. And we will see you next time. And hashtag Becoming Stories. And the next story could be you. So don't forget, join us at journeytobecoming.com. And all of the social media platforms are right there on their website. Thank you. Don't forget, stay positive. Bye-bye.